Since we first looked up at the moon and stars, we must have asked questions about our place in the universe. So how did life begin on Earth? Is life common out there in the solar system and beyond? Are there other civilizations out there waiting to be discovered? And what would it be like to live on other planets? Well, in this video, we're going to meet the scientists who are using cutting-edge research to try and answer those questions.
So what was the Earth like about 4.3 billion years ago? We know that there wasn't very much oxygen in the atmosphere near the surface. We know that there was enough of an atmosphere to sustain liquid water, but that there was also dry land. Beyond that, there's not an incredible amount that we know, whether it was hotter than today or colder than today. There are different scenarios for that. Whether the pressure of the atmosphere was 20 times what it is today, or it might have been a fraction of what it is today. A lot of these are still unknown, but they're being explored now. One of the wonderful things about working in origins of life research is that there's no generally accepted theory about origin of life. There are many different ways people are trying to explore the problem, some on surfaces of a planet, deep beneath the water, or even in space. The area that I explore most is the particular prebiotic synthesis that can take place driven by UV light on the surface of planets. Certain environments that are plausibly present on the early Earth, such as impact craters and the warm ponds that can actually fill these sort of crater basins, seem to be very, very promising places to do this sort of prebiotic chemistry. And it turns out hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen sulfide, and phosphates in the presence of UV light have opened up a pathway to forming the simple building blocks that are needed for life.
This is the Photochemical Reactor. That is an instrument that we use on a daily basis that mimics the light coming from the young sun on the early Earth. And what we do with this is we prepare our solutions with simple molecules and then we expose them to UV light.
In the liquid, hydrogen sulfide becomes dissociated. It becomes this anion. And the UV light ends up knocking an electron off of that anion, which then goes to attach itself onto this hydrogen cyanide, which will react with the oxygen in the water and will also react with other hydrogen cyanides to build up a more complex chemistry. And the wonderful thing is that it's actually buffered by the phosphate, which then later makes the backbone for what eventually will become the RNA strands.
Many people will have seen the iconic picture of the double helix discovered by Watson and Crick of DNA. DNA communicates with the rest of the cellular machinery with a molecule called RNA, which is a sort of close chemical cousin. A hypothesis about the origin of life that was actually proposed more than 40 years ago by Francis Crick and Leslie Orgel, among others. And that is that there was a primordial biology which lacked both DNA and proteins, but was based on RNA as the main player. A self-replicating RNA would begin to make copies of itself, would make those copies in a not entirely accurate way, so there would be mutations and there would be evolution. Like a snowball, this would get the whole process of self-replication rolling, and I think this is really the beginning of life. We can never be sure until we actually find an alternative form of life, for example on another planet, if this is the only way.
If you found life on Europa and you knew that that life originated a different way than it originated on Earth, or that this was a second origin, then that by itself, having those two data points, would already say that life is probably ubiquitous. It would seem quite extraordinary that in our particular solar system we happen to have two examples, and those are the only two examples within our galaxy.
You know, it is a bit of a question about our place in the cosmos. Where have we come from? Is the cosmos literally teeming of life, or are we alone? If we were alone, I think we would have a terrible responsibility to not destroy, our habitat and our planet.
Understanding more about our origins is important for contextualizing our future. The more that we actually can understand the scope in terms of time and the amazing scope in terms of size on this very small planet, perhaps in a very small place, with very, very simple molecular machinery building into something this complex, can really help to contextualize and even to value how amazing life on Earth really is. And if we find out that life is rare through this sort of research, then that shows how much more we really need to value and preserve it into the future.